up, everybody? My name is Kolbe. You've probably seen me around here before, and you were wondering, what does that guy do? Yeah, I don't even really know, but I get paid, so it's okay with me. This week, Ansley couldn't find anybody to talk to about virtue and vice, and she thought, well, Kolbe is the most virtuous man I know, so let me ask him to take care of it. So here I am. You guys are stuck with me, and so the first thing I want to talk with you about is this idea of freedom, that the Lord gives us free will. And free will is basically just the ability to choose for ourselves and to make our own decisions. And this freedom is given to us so that we can grow on our own. And it's given to help us grow. And so you can make good choices and you can make bad choices with this free will. And the good choices are where you're able to experience the most freedom. And that's because the more you choose bad, the more likely you are to choose bad again, and the more you are to sin again. You kind of become a slave to sin, and it's like an addiction. And so because we have freedom, we are responsible for our decisions and our choices that we make. And so that not only affects ourselves and our salvation, but it affects those around us. And so Jesus tells a story in the gospel of separating the sheep from the goats. And the sheep are the ones that made the good decisions, and the goats are the ones that made the bad decisions. And Jesus is asked, well, Lord, when did we see you naked? And when did we see you hungry? And when did we not clothe you? When did we not feed you? And the Lord says, well, whenever you saw the least of these, whenever you saw the people around you, whenever you saw them naked and you clothed them, when you saw them hungry and you clothed them, when you saw them imprisoned and you visited them, that's when you did it for me. And so the sheep would have been the ones that saw the people around them and helped the people around them, and the goats would have been the ones that only looked after themselves, and the ones that did what they needed to do but didn't help the others. And by doing that, they didn't help Jesus. They didn't worship God in those actions. And so with our freedom, we need to make sure that we aren't inhibiting or limiting other people's freedom, and we need to make sure that they're able to practice their freedom as well, and that by acknowledging their dignity, that they're allowed to be free as well. And so when you're making these decisions, there's good decisions or virtues, and there's bad decisions, vices. So virtue is habitually choosing the good. And there are a few different types of virtues. They're usually split into two groups, cardinal virtues and theological virtues. And so the cardinal virtues, or the human virtues, are prudence, temperance, fortitude, and justice. And those are more directed towards people, and so they're also called human virtues. And the first of those is prudence. Prudence would be being able to look at a situation and being able to think through all of the different outcomes of the situation, all of the choices you have, and being able to see what is good, what is bad, and what decision you should make. The best possible decision is being able to see that and think it through. The next would be fortitude. Fortitude is being able to choose the good even in the face of adversity, even when it seems difficult or it looks hard. Fortitude would grant you the ability to choose even though you're afraid. So it's not courage or bravery in the fact that you don't feel any fear at all. Fear is good, but fortitude allows you to recognize that fear, face that fear, and continue to choose the good anyways. And the next one is justice. Justice is something you've definitely heard about, but you've probably heard about it from like superheroes or police officers or judges. And the Christian sense of justice is more than that. So first of all, justice is giving to others that which they deserve. And first and foremost, you give to God that which he deserves, which is worship. And so you worship God by going to Mass, frequenting the sacraments, and loving your neighbor. And then you're able to show justice to your neighbor by giving to them what they deserve. And so that might include what we see as our social justice system. When someone commits a crime, they receive a punishment. And so that might be part of it, but that is not the entirety of it. And Christian justice is done with charity and is with recognition that each person is made in the image and likeness of God, and so they have a certain dignity inherent to themselves. And so we should treat everyone in a way that lifts them up. And so when it comes to like someone commits a crime and if punishment is necessary, then the punishment should be dealt. But the punishment should not be for the sake only just to punish the person. It should be to rehabilitate that person or to bring them back up, to bring them up, not to hold them down. And finally, the last cardinal virtue is temperance. Temperance has to deal with your desires and choosing good things. So temperance is the virtue that helps you to receive many goods without losing another good. So it helps you to choose good to a good degree. An example of this would be food. Everyone needs food, but too much food is not good, and too little food is also unhealthy. So temperance would be being able to find that middle ground where you receive just enough food and it's not too much and it's not too little. And then the second group of virtues is the theological virtues. Now these virtues look directly at God, and God is the creator of these virtues and he is the object of these virtues. So these virtues are the virtues that give life to all virtues. Without these virtues, the other virtues would be pointless and meaningless. And so the first theological virtue is faith. Faith is basically our belief in God and belief in all that he has revealed to us. And the second one is hope. Hope is a longing and a steadfast waiting for the second coming and the fulfillment of God's promises. And the final one is charity. Charity is that love for our neighbor and for God that God speaks of when he says, "Thou shalt love the Lord your God above all else, and shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." And so, like I said, we have the ability to make good decisions and bad decisions. And so while the good decisions are associated with virtues, the bad decisions are associated with vices. And so the cardinal virtues, each cardinal virtue has an associated vice. And for the virtue of prudence, that vice is folly, and that's basically a lack of good sense, a lack of being able to think things through, and kind of foolishness. And then for justice, the vice is injustice, and that's basically withholding what's due to another person, or not giving them what they deserve. It's kind of easy to see the opposite. If justice is giving them what they deserve, injustice is not giving them what they deserve. And then the opposite, the vice of fortitude, is cowardice. And I think we know what cowardice is. It's just giving in at the first sign of any kind of hardship or difficulty. It might not be the first sign, but giving in, not remaining strong, and not making the right decision because of that cowardice. And then the opposite of the vice of temperance is intemperance, which is just kind of giving in to your desires and not limiting yourself at all, letting you just go wild, do whatever you want. And then theological virtues also have vices, and so the vice for faith is apostasy. Apostasy is explicitly and deliberately denouncing belief in God. And then the opposite of hope is despair. And despair is losing. It's of the loss of hope. You're not waiting for the second coming, and you're not waiting for the fulfillment of God's promises because you don't think that they will come. And then the opposite of love, there's a lot that goes into the vice that's opposite of love, but basically we could see it as hate or willing evil for another person, which is obviously not good. And so the vices associated with the theological virtues are extremely dangerous because they are directly and explicitly associated with our salvation. And so we have to be very careful to guard ourselves from those vices and from all vices in general, because our salvation is on the line. And so I just want you guys to keep in mind the gravity of your decisions and the fact that your choices and the choices you make and the decisions you make, they matter. And so if your salvation is on the line, then you probably should take it seriously. And so start thinking of some ways that you can practice these virtues, because they're not easy, and it's something that you need to work on. And the more you work on, the easier it will get. The more likely you will be to choose a virtue over a vice. And so start thinking of some ways, practical ways in your daily life that you can choose the good and stay away from the bad. And by doing that, you will see a lot more freedom and a lot more peace in your life.